art of making beautiful and functional baskets has been practiced by Veronica and Jim Atwin for many years. Maliseet Indians from the King's Clear Reserve, they first show the preparation of materials and then make a fancy basket out of black ash and sweetgrass.
Today we are looking for black ash. Black ash is used for baskets, for large baskets and fancy baskets. When we look for black ash, we normally look for a tree that is quite straight, with no branches. The longer it is, the better it is for the weaving of the baskets. It's the men that cuts the trees, and they notch the tree. This way they can tell whether the tree is good for small baskets or large baskets. After the ash is cut, the men take it to wherever they reside, and then they put it on two split logs, and they cut the bark off either with the axe or a draw knife. They mix ashes and water, smudging beforehand. After all the bark is off, by smudging the ash, it tells you where your axe marks are. And you start from one end of the log to the other. And it leaves the marks where you have pound. Fresh ash doesn't have to be pounded right away. It could be stored away for later use and kept in a dark, shady place away from the sun. You don't have to go over the same surface again. And you keep turning the ash as you go along till the whole stick is pounded. And then you take a sharp axe and you make little wedge things at the end of the ash, and you start peeling. Usually the first pounding is all white, and the second pounding of the ash is a darker color, about beige. The white ash is used for real white baskets, and pink, yellows, orange, and maybe blue. And the other darker part of the ash, that's where the dark colors come in. After the ash is pounded, then it's all tied up neatly and real tight, so the air won't get in through the grains, and it'll stay moist till you're ready to put it through the splitting machine and cutting it up, preparing it. Preparing ash to be used for baskets, you size the ash to fit the opening on the splitting machine with a wide tooth gauge. Before you put it through the splitting machine, you scrape the ash on both sides, and then you cut the ash right in the middle to get the same thickness, and then you put it through a splitting machine. You work that through, and it is very important to pull the ash through the splitting machine with an even pull. If your left hand or right hand gets tired, And then you can feel the thickness going towards one side of the ash, and then you just rest a little and try to even the pull, so your ash will be splitting quite even. If the ash is quite thick, you can do that several times to get a different thickness of the splints. The thickest ash splints you use for standards. So you use a standard gauge, which has 3 prongs, and pull that through. The minute you pick up a strip of ash, you can tell whether it's for the standard or a weaver. Weavers are much thinner than the standards, and those got to be quite thin in order to put the gauge through, because the weavers have about 6 or 7 teeth. The third gauge is for imitation shell, and we use a very thin ash. Maybe an ash that has been split about 3 or 4 times. It's a real silky type ash. This particular gauge that I have in my hand was brought to my mother years ago by a pet crow. This crow used to go away every day. Of course, he'd be home around mealtime when he got hungry. So one day, when my mother and my 2 sisters were making baskets, this crow came home and was carrying something, and it happened to be a very fine gauge. They made one bunch of weavers with this gauge and just put it aside. And this gauge disappeared when the crow went. And next day, he came with this other gauge, which was carved so nicely. It fits perfectly right where you place your fingers. And they don't know up to this day where that crow got that gauge or where he took the other one. After you'd put them through these gauges, you have maybe 5 or 6 strands of standards, weavers, and trimming that you want to decorate your basket with. So we mix our dye gradually into this basin with the strip of ash to see a proper shade. And then you take a bundle of your standards, you roll them into this dye, and maybe 2 or 3 times around so it'll be even color. Making a miniature hamper, I used 14 standards, 7 standards one side and 7 on the other to make it square. You start with a cross and keep adding standards till you have the square bottom. Then you weave around it once, then fasten it, slit in the corners, because as you weave, this basket becomes round. Then you bring your standards upright. to the top. You work the weavers down all around with your fingernails till you get the basket real tight. Then sharpen the tops, turn them in. The ones remaining are the ones to be cut off. After the basket is all woven, and then you put your designs in. Now this particular basket, I put white diamond designs on the main part of the basket. And after the binding is put on the main basket, then you fit your cover. Some of the basket you could put extra work on them, like this miniature hamper that I've made. It has a little special touch to it. I surprised myself talking English because when I was 16 years old, I'd run a mile before I'd say yes or no to any non-Indian person. When I was going to school, there were prizes given to whoever spoke more English during recess or dinner hour. I didn't get too many prizes. I lived quite close to the school. I'd stand right in the corner of my house so I can hear the bell ringing, and then I dash down just so that I don't have to speak English. I'm teaching the children, and one of the things that I've discovered through research, the Catholic missionaries were brought to our community, and the Indians decided to make the first church here, and it was made out of driftwood. That was 365 years ago, and the Roman Catholic religion was taught to the Indians. A good many years after, they brought the teachers to the community. And now we have beautiful schools. Our children are all speaking English, and our Indian language has been lost. So the second language that I'm teaching is Maliseet, and I have a class of 42 children ranging from nursery to grade 3. Last Christmas we had a play that was in Maliseet language, and this year at Easter, that's the first time there was Mass sung in their own native tongue, Maliseet language.